Hey everyone, it's Angelos from JustStarTrek.com. Today I want to review this amazing book, Kirk Fu Manual. Really pleased to have received a copy from my friend Eric at Insight Editions and of course Dayton Ward, the author. I'm sure a lot of Star Trek fans will recognise that name because he's not only a New York Times best-selling author, but he's also written the very popular Strange New Worlds and Star Trek Vanguard book series, which are an absolute must for any Trek fan. So talking of must for Trek fans, this book is a definite. It's amazingly illustrated. We're going to have a look at a few of the chapters in a second. And it's written in a particular way where it's as if Kirk is talking to you. So it's written in first person. And he's speaking to you as if he's reviewing and doing a captain's log of some of the key missions from the original series and tying in some amazing moves that he did during those amazing adventures. So just before I go into the book, incidentally, Bill Shatner, who we all know played Captain Kirk, he did some martial arts in his younger days, and he wrote in his memoirs that once he was with his young daughters, and I think they were playing on some bumper cars or something like that, and some guys were causing hassle and they were bumping too hard or something like that, and I think there was about 3 or 4 of them he wrote in the book, and he just squared up to them. And this was during the making of the series, and before he realised that, it's just 1 versus 3, and he had channeled the inner Captain Kirk within him. So this book is great because it is kind of based on reality. I'm a fellow author and a martial artist, so I can relate to some of the things that has been written here. So let's dive in. I'm going to read a couple of little chapters here because I thought it's really cleverly written and it's actually very funny. It's not the biggest book. I think there's about 60 odd pages, but the illustrations are phenomenal and it's just a really funny book. So I'm going to read this one here. So it's section 1, which is the standard karate chop, and I'll just read the little excerpt from Captain Kirk's personal log, which starts off: "I hit a Nazi today, several of them actually, and the fact that this was the least unusual aspect of our most recent mission is saying something," which I think is hilarious because it just sets the scene. We all know which episode he relates to, where they've been down and the society had taken on the Nazi kind of theme as the way of running life, and he goes on to explain about how Captain Kirk does the karate chop. So he starts off with step 1. So it's illustrated by a guy called Christian Cornier, and it's just a step-by-step guide on how to do a karate chop. And what's interesting is that the 4th step, we always have Captain Kirk there in his ripped shirt, looking ready as he always does. And the second chapter I want to just quickly touch upon is this one. It's called the double clutch, where we've all seen it, where Captain Kirk grabs double fist, double clutch as it's called, and pow into the kidneys or the side or the face or wherever it's going. So here, I'm sure we all recognise that guy who he's whacking there, Mr. Khan, and on the other side it shows you, and the book is written in a way that it supplements the unarmed combat that Starfleet teaches all its officers. So it shows you Kirk standing ready in the on guard position, grabbing his 2 fists, doing the swing, and looking very triumphant at the end. I'm going to read a little excerpt from this because I thought it was actually really quite clever. So, "I'm sore all over. I guess that's to be expected when you fight a genetically enhanced human. There can be no denying Khan's superior intellect or that of his followers, who represent what was once believed to be the best humanity had to offer. With their enhanced physiologies and intellect, they were intended to usher in a new era of human evolution, one perhaps better suited to the rigours of exploring, colonising and surviving distant worlds throughout the galaxy. Of course, as Mr. Spock put it, their creators failed to acknowledge the time-tested proverb, superior ability breeds superior ambition, and yes, they can sure throw a punch." So he goes on to say, "It took every bit of training, skill and strength I had to stand toe-to-toe with Khan, and even then I had to resort to tricks and a bit of luck to beat him. By the time I finally had him down long enough to have him taken into custody, I could barely walk. Every muscle in my body hurts, and probably will for the next week. Here's hoping I never run into Khan again." So I thought that's a really, really nice addition there, because we all know what's going to happen later on, because he will meet our dear friend Mr. Khan again. And it goes on, I'm sure we all recognise these kind of amazing characters from all of the series before. We have our favourite double ear, I think it's called the box lunch. Box lunch on this one, where he double hands the Porgorn in the ears and causes great difficulty for him. And it goes on to explain how to do all these moves, and it's just really, really well written. One of my other favourites is the lateral body block, where he goes on to say, despite your training, it's not realistic to believe that you can fare well against multiple opponents in a lengthy confrontation. Sometimes you can face 2, maybe even 3 adversaries before their numbers overcome your skills. During such engagements, your goal should be to disable, disengage, and seek retreat as quickly as possible. He then talks about how when he went back in time and he had to fight the United Air Force officers, and there he is doing the lateral body block, where literally he threw his whole body into the 3 of them to try and get out of that situation. And then there you go. That's how you do the lateral body block. It's just phenomenally interesting and really, really cool and very, very funny. I think our friend Dayton has done a phenomenal job. It's really well presented, hard cover. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. You can probably get through it in an hour or 2, and it's well worth being on any Star Trek fans' shelves. So pre-order yours today. Get it from amazon.com.co.uk, anywhere around the world. It's called Star Trek Kirk Fu Manual. Massive thank you again to Eric at Insight Editions, and of course Dayton Ward for writing this great book. And one last thing, there is a bonus section at the back of the book. I won't reveal what it is. And also at the end you can have a test, so you can work out what moves are appropriate in which situations. And there's a certificate of training to impress all of your friends at the end. So well worth a read, highly recommended, and check yours out and get it at amazon.com. Thanks very much, guys.